Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I got some Muay Thai matchups to talk about, as well as a kickboxing matchup. For this week, I'm going to be covering three very important fights in one Fight Night 40. This is going to take place live this Friday, February 13th, around, I believe, 9 o'clock in Bangkok, Thailand, Lumpini Stadium. In our main event, the strawweight kickboxing world champion Jackie Bhutan will be defending her title against the woman who beat her and now the newly crowned strawweight Muay Thai champion Stella Hammersberger, as well as in our co-main event for the interim featherweight Muay Thai title. We have Shadow taking on the King of the North, Nico Carrillo, which honestly is probably my favorite fight on the card, the best fight on the card, in my personal opinion, and at least the one that I'm looking forward to the most. Now, like I said, I'll be covering three fights specifically on this card. There are some other matchups here as well, and some intrigue as well. Overall, the card has 5 MMA fights, 1 kickboxing, which is the main event, 1 submission grappling, and 2 Muay Thai bouts. But I'm going to be specifically looking at the 2 Muay Thai fights, the co-main and then the actually main fight, or sorry, the card opener, and then of course the main event. But without further ado, let's begin with our main card main card opener, I guess would be a term. Oh, and also this week I will be covering the main event for Zuffa Boxing 3. Or more specifically, that main event, which will be live this Sunday, but I will be releasing that video Friday, so watch out for it. But without further ado, let's get on to the video. In this matchup, we have the Black Panther taking on Diego Paez. Now, I'm not kidding. That is how his name is spelled and pronounced, whether it be by one themselves or literally on Tapology. That's just how it is. But this is going to be an absolute fantastic matchup, and it's opening up the card too, which makes it even better. This is a matchup that on surface looks like pressure versus toughness, but underneath, this is really about control, rhythm, and who gets to dictate how the fight is fought. This is one of those fights where nothing flashy needs to happen for the result to become clear. It's not about one moment, but it's about who steadily takes ownership of the space, the pace, and the exchanges. And when you start looking at it through that lens, this matchup leans very clearly in one direction. So starting with Black Panther, he is a forward-moving fighter, more of a Muay Mat. Similar to Rotang, just those pressure forward style. But he's not reckless. As Panther, he doesn't sprint into danger or throw himself into chaos. His pressure is deliberate. He steps forward or behind offense, and Panther closes distance with intent. And once he's there, he stays there, and that alone changes how opponents are forced to operate. What stands out immediately about Panther is how comfortable he is in the close range. He doesn't rush exchanges. All he needs is to land just one big shot. And Panther is perfectly fine touching the body on leaning opponents, or using the clinch as well to lean, make opponents rest, and slowly wear them down in the clinch with knees and elbows. There is a patience to his pressure that makes it hard to catch him overcommitting. Plus, another big part of Panther's style is balance. After he strikes, he almost always in position to strike again, whether it's just a rear body kick back to position, so like you can either throw punches or another kick, throw a jab back in position to throw a kick. It doesn't really matter. What matters is Panther, he doesn't fall out of his stance, he doesn't stumble forward, and he doesn't give free openings on the exit. That allows Panther to stay present in the exchange instead of having to disengage and start again. And as the fight goes on, that starts to matter more and more. Now, looking at Diego Paez, on the other hand, he's just built as a kind of a different fighter. Not literally built different, but just a different style. His biggest strength is toughness. Paez, he can take shots, he can absorb pressure, and he doesn't mentally break easily. That's not nothing, especially in a fight where you're going to be pushed, especially with a dangerous striker like Panther. Paez is comfortable being uncomfortable, willing to strike to stay in the fight, and Perez doesn't panic when things aren't going his way. That's why he's hard to put away, and why fights with him often last longer than expected. But, toughness cuts both ways. Because Perez's style relies heavily on enduring exchanges rather than controlling them, he spends a lot of time reacting instead of initiating. Kind of like if I were to throw a combo and then retreat off the exit, Perez would essentially be having to play catch up. That is the biggest detriment to his style. He survives moments instead of stacking moments onto themselves. And against a fighter who's content to slowly take ground and pile up clean work, that becomes a problem. Perez isn't helpless offensively. He can throw back, he can land when opponents give him openings, but his offense tends to come in bursts rather than sequences. And he's more opportunistic than systematic. And against someone like Panther, who doesn't give many free looks, those opportunities are quite limited. Now, when these styles collide, the first thing you're going to notice is who's setting the tone. Early on, Perez may look fine. He's fresh, he's durable, hasn't been tested yet, and he's still light enough on his feet to move and respond. So Panther won't explode out of the gate. He doesn't need to. He'll take the early moments to establish presence, to touch the body, and make Perez sort of notice his presence, if you will. That's important because Panther doesn't win fights by surprising his opponents with a sudden rush of explosiveness or a sudden combination they never seen. He wins them by just simply inevitability. He's going to land. It's going to hurt. And eventually he's going to be up ahead on his opponents, whether it's reading their movements, reading their openings, and eventually just predicting where they're going to go next, and then firing off the knockout shot from there. And I think as the rounds progress, Panther's pressure starts to compress the fight. Space becomes harder to find, exchanges last longer, Perez has to work more just to reset to neutral, and every time that happens, Panther is the one coming forward, the one landing first, the one finishing exchanges in control. And this is where the styles really separate themselves. As Perez's toughness keeps him upright, but Panther's consistency keeps him ahead. Even when Perez absorbs shots well, he's still absorbing them. He's still giving ground. And he's still reacting instead of dictating. And over time, that creates a visual and technical gap that's just hard to close. Plus, another key factor is energy management. As Panther fights at a pace he can maintain. He doesn't spike his output unnecessarily, and he doesn't chase moments that aren't there. That means as the fight moves into the middle and later stages, he looks largely the same, composed, steady, and in control. Perez, meanwhile, has to work harder just to stay even. His defense relies on toughness and movement, and that costs energy. And the longer Panther keeps him engaged, the more the energy tax shows. And by the later rounds, you start to see the difference, not just in output, but in posture. As Panther looks comfortable standing his ground, while Perez starts looking like someone trying to get through exchanges rather than win them. And that's the turning point. Because once a fight reaches that stage, the outcome doesn't require a finish to feel just decisive. And Panther doesn't need a knockout or a dramatic moment. He just needs to keep doing what he's already doing. Touching the body, controlling the exchanges, staying balanced, and forcing Perez to open on his terms. So, with all that being said, I'm obviously going to pick the Black Panther to win. It feels like I'm talking about the comic book character. It's so funny. But in all seriousness, I just think he's simply a level above, just a much better technician, better power, and overall just simply better at controlling the distance and space and making the fight on his terms. So, while I think Perez is tough, he's durable for sure, and can probably have his moments. I mean, it's a striking competition, and you're always going to have moments, even if you are, technically outskilled. There's always that chance, right? I just think Black Panther is just far too much. So, for my official prediction, I'm going to pick Black Panther, and I'm going to pick him via knockout in this fight. I just think it's an inevitability. I really think he's that good. But with that being said, that's been my breakdown of this matchup. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below on who you think's going to win. But until then, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. I thank you all for listening. Remember, stay calm, stay respectful, and enjoy the violence. I'll see y'all next time.